Hello everybody, my name is Izzy and welcome to my channel. Hi. Since it's February, this is the month of love and appreciation and respect. At least that's what I think. I thought it would be fun to sit down and show you guys books that will help you fall in love with reading. If your New Year's resolution is to read more books or to start reading again, wherever you are in your journey, reading for pleasure versus reading for school is completely different. So if you're kind of scarred from the school literature stuff, don't let this deter you away for reading for pleasure. Sometimes it's good to get off your phone and just kind of get lost in a world that's not your own. We're first going to start off with romance. In my opinion, personally, romance is the easiest one to get back into if you haven't read in a really long time. So for this genre, I'm picking Beach Read by Emily Henry. Now, I love all of Emily Henry's books. Personally, I love People We Meet on Vacation the best, but Beach Read definitely has helped me kind of grow my love for the romance genre, and I'm like obsessed with it. This book is about a girl named August who is a writer, and she is going down to her father's lake house. She's having a really hard time writing her novel. While she's down there, she's also next door neighbors with her writing arch nemesis named Gus. And so one day they're like on the balcony or whatever, and he's like, you know what, we should switch genres. Maybe we'll get different perspectives. So they're like having like a competition who can write better in the other person's genre, and it's just really good. I haven't read this one in a little bit, so my memory's a little foggy. I would love to reread this, but I do remember this being very fast-paced. The banter is so fun. It's very easy to get into and to follow. The characters are just so lovable and it's so fun, and the romance is just so cute to get into. It's a good get back on your feet kind of book. Oh my god, I just realized it has this Target sticker on it. No! Oh, should I redo that whole clip? How did I not know this was on here? Absolutely not. Oh no, it's one too. I'm sorry, I'm picking off the sticker because my abhorration, I guess. I abhor. That's the word I'm thinking of. I abhor stickers. One reason you should start reading, your vocabulary will expand. Not by much though. The next category I'm gonna have is like smutty romance. This is romance that it has plot, it has things going on, but I feel like the main focus is the smut. If you don't know what smut is, it is basically porn. Honestly, in the most cutthroat way I can explain it, it's sexy moments, okay? We don't shame here if we love smut, okay? And if you're gonna shame, there's the door. For this genre, I have two picks. The first one I'm going to talk about I don't own. It's The Deal by Elle Kennedy. This book is so cute, very easy to get into. It's about our two main characters, Hannah and Garrett. Garrett is a hockey player and he is kind of struggling with this class, and so he sees Hannah who's like excelling in this class, so he's like, hey, won't you tutor me and help me out? And she's like, no. And so she's like, leave me alone, blah blah blah. But he's very persistent and he is trying to get her attention because he likes her, and so he's trying to get her to help him with this class. So that's like the basic synopsis of this book. It goes so much more into it. It's so freaking cute and it's sexy, it's smutty, it's so good. It's a college hockey romance. You can't beat it. It's just really good. So I really recommend that book. Also, I'm going to recommend Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. Personally, I really love this book. I know some people have mixed opinions about this, but I personally really love this. This is about our main character Naomi, who is meeting up with her twin sister, but her twin sister's kind of like the bad twin and she like gets into trouble a lot and like whatever. So one day she's walking into this coffee shop and this man like comes over screaming at her, and she's like, who are you? Why are you yelling at me? He thinks that she is her twin and her twin is banned from that coffee shop that they're meeting at. So she has to explain to this guy that, hey, I'm not my twin sister. I don't know who you are, but get out of my face. And so he is like, fine, whatever. And his name is Knox. This is about Naomi and Knox, obviously. So Naomi finds out that her twin sister has a daughter, and she just left her daughter there for Naomi to take care of. This is a pretty thick book. It's like, how many pages is this? It's 545 pages, which can be intimidating for someone who hasn't gotten back into reading in a long time. Don't let this intimidate you. Conquer your fear. You got it. It also doesn't matter how long it takes you, as long as you start. This book always had something going on to me. There was always something happening. There was never a dull moment. The romance was spicy, and it was just so good. I don't know. There's something about this that had me hooked from the first moment I read it. So my next category, we are going to kind of hop off into something a little different. I'm going to be talking about fantasy. Now, if you've seen my channel, I will not shut up about this book. I will get every goddamn person on this planet to read this book. I love it. Okay. And that is Defy the Night by Bridget Kemmerer. I'll go into what this is about. I feel like I've talked about this book so much on my channel. I really do think this is a really good fantasy to get started in because it's not too fantasy-ish, I guess. It's definitely, like, there is fantasy aspects to this, but it's definitely like real world kind of thing too. So it's not overly fantasy. This is about a girl named Tessa, and her kingdom has kind of been plagued with this sickness, and the only thing that can help stop it are these things called moonflower petals. But moonflower petals are very scarce and they're very hard to come by. They're expensive, and she lives in the poor district, so there's not that many going around. Tessa and her best friend Wes go around to the richer district and steal moonflower petals to give to the poor. So it's kind of like a Robin Hood retelling, sort of, where they steal from the rich, give to the poor. And there's also another perspective by Prince Korik, and Prince Korik, he is very cruel. His brother is the king. They're very cruel. They run the kingdom not very nice. They're not very nice, but they are also very concerned about the sickness because the king is starting to get sick, and so they're figuring something's not clicking. Okay, they gotta figure it out. All I have to say is you just have to read this. You have to experience this book. It's just so good. There's also a little subsection of romance, so if you like romance, that is my fantasy recommendation. Like I said, it's not too fantasy-esque. I think I'm gonna go into thriller/mysteries next. So if you want a thriller or a mystery, I'm gonna give you A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is very popular. A lot of these books are very popular. This is about a girl named Pip who, in her hometown, there was a murder that happened, but she kind of suspects that the person that murdered the other person didn't actually murder them. Does that make sense? For her senior thesis, she decides to kind of go over the case again and try and figure out where the indiscrepancies, why am I trying to use fancy words right now? I don't understand. Basically, she's kind of going back into the case and figuring out what went wrong. It really keeps you on your toes. It's a very simple and easy to understand thriller and mystery because it's very and there's a little bit of romance, just a little bit. There's a lot of twists and turns that will happen, and it's also a series too, so if you want to read it, you can read the other two books. It kind of gives Nancy Drew vibes a little bit, so if you like that kind of stuff, you might really enjoy this. And then the other book I'm going to give you is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. I felt like this book was very fast-paced, very thrilling. This is about a couple who goes away for the weekend. They're going to this deserted place in Scotland, but it's it's snowing like crazy. It's basically a snowstorm that's happening there. While they are there, a lot of weird things are happening in this house that they're in. There's also a thing that the husband has facial blindness, so he can't distinguish people's facial features and their faces. It's very fast-paced. It's very easy. Like I said, very easy to get to. It definitely, honestly, a lot more ominous than Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I felt like I was on edge the whole time while reading this. So maybe don't read this in the middle of the night because I was scared. It gives you that eerie feeling a little bit, and if you really want to try that out, I definitely recommend it. It is very fast-paced. My next one I'm going to get into is historical fiction. I know a lot of people don't really talk about historical fictions, but some of us out here like it, okay? Like, I love me a good historical fiction every once in a while. My favorite book, personally, for historical fiction, which is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Yes, this is a historical fiction, okay? Some people out here telling me, it's a romance, it's a romance. No, it's historical fiction, technically. This story is about a girl named Monique, and she gets a call from a publicist being like, hey, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Will you come and interview this person? She's like, sure. She don't really know who it is, but she's like, sure. She goes down and she finds out it's this super famous Evelyn Hugo, and she's never given an interview before until now. Evelyn wants Monique to tell her story out there, how she meets all of her 7 husbands in her career, and it's just so good. This book made me cry, it made me laugh. It's literally perfection in a book, in my opinion. I need to reread this. I haven't read it in a while. A lot of people talk about this book, but they also talk about the counterpart of this kind of whole world, and that is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. The way this is written, somebody's getting interviewed for a documentary. That's kind of what it feels like, but like in the best way possible. So this goes over like the super famous band in like the 70s. They are kind of doing a documentary series telling their band career, and it's just so interesting. It's so good. It felt very realistic. Like, this band felt so real. I know a lot of people really love this book, and it is very easy. Sometimes you can get a little confused on the characters. I think personally it can get a little confusing with certain characters being like, wait, who is that again? Who is that again? But you'll learn, okay? Now I'm gonna talk about dystopian books. So dystopian is kind of similar to fantasy in some aspects, but dystopian is like, I don't know, like doomsday. Like, we're in like this alternate universe, but like everything went bad. For this, I'm gonna give the Shatter Me series. This book got me into reading again whenever I was in high school. I hadn't read in a really long time, and then I read this book and I was obsessed with it. So basically, Shatter Me is about this girl named Juliet, and she's like in this insane asylum when we are first meeting her, and she's basically like going crazy because she's locked up in this insane asylum and she's getting experimented on because she has this thing called a lethal touch. So basically, if she touches anybody, they can die, and she's lethal because she can kill them, and she touches them and then they die. Does that make sense? Until one day she meets this friend, and then they kind of help bust her out. This series, honestly, it starts off, I kind of forget that it starts off like this, because then it turns into something completely different. But I will say this book is so easy to get into. It's very fast-paced. Chapters are fairly short. I would definitely recommend this book if you want to try a series. You will love these characters. You will love this world. You will love the romance. It's just so good. So I'm gonna talk about classics really fast. Now, I know people are like, I don't want to read no dang classics. I gotta read those for school. Like, why are you trying to sell me on a classic? Hear me out. Reading is completely different when you read it for pleasure versus when you read it for school. And I will tell you, classics are honestly the same way. I swear it's like a Mandela effect, where like for some reason whenever you have to read something you don't want to, versus when you want to read it, you actually like it. For this, if you want to get into classics and you want to try them out, or you want to be, I don't know, what's the word, pretentious, which, you know what? You go, girl. If you want to start and get into classics, I would recommend The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. We're in this guy's perspective. His name is Nick, and he is the neighbor to this guy named J. Gatsby, or Mr. Gatsby. And Mr. Gatsby is super rich. He has this big mansion. He lives very lavishly, and every night he'll have these really gorgeous parties. Like, you want to be invited to these parties. Like, it is amazing. You need to be there. Mr. Gatsby tells Jay, like, hey, I'm your neighbor. Hey, hello, like, let's hang out. And he's like, sure. So Nick goes to these parties and whatever. And there's another little like section of this. Nick is friends with this couple called Tom and Daisy. And Daisy and Mr. Gatsby used to be in love. So I think that's all I'll say. Obviously, there are very analytical parts of this book, but the reason why I'm recommending it, one, the ending, crazy. Like, never, I was kind of, I'm not gonna lie, I was bored at the beginning of this book. It's very school analytic that way. But the ending to this was mind-blowing, and because I didn't know anything about this book, it just gets crazy at the end. It's super short. It's 180 pages, so short. But I did like this book. Like I said, it's a little boring, but it gets crazy, and I would recommend reading if you want to read a classic. It's short, it's easy. Sorta. Give her a try. So I'm gonna give you my last book recommendation. If you want a non-fiction book, I would recommend The Memoir by Jeanette McCurdy, which is I'm Glad My Mom Died. There's so much that happens in this book, so definitely look up the trigger warnings before you read this. Jeanette really just tells about her life growing up. She even talks about iCarly, she talks about Sam and Cat, she talks how it's like being a child actress, she talks about acting in general, she talks about her eating disorder. The main central idea of this book is Jeanette's toxic, narcissistic mother who basically abused her whole life. You as an outsider obviously see this behavior is abusive, but you're reading from Jeanette's perspective. Obviously to her, she didn't see anything wrong. Like, this is how it is, this is how it'll be. I love my mom. It is like the biggest heartbreaking story, and it's just so well written. It's very interesting. Like I said, look up trigger warnings. It's so good. It's beautifully written. I would definitely recommend if you want to read, I don't know, if you want to read some nonfiction, if you want to try it just to see. I don't know. Maybe you're crazy like that. I don't know. So those are all the books that I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!